people scared. I say, okay, don't bother me none. They scared, they pay on time, they keep me fed.
Maneaters are veteran ogres of many campaigns fought in far-off lands. Travelling mercenaries beyond peer, they have spent decades accruing scars, tall tales, wealth, exotic war gear and skills before heading back to the ogre kingdoms. Maneaters have fought throughout the old world and beyond, and many races attempt to recruit such fighters into their armies, promising food, gold, or whatever else the ogres want in return for their services. It is the pay that matters, not the foe, although in some contracts man-eaters are awarded fallen enemies to eat, so that in these cases the enemy may matter. Ogres will eat anything, but they have preferences, certainly. Man-eaters inherit cultures of the lands they visit, rather than spreading their own. These mercenaries earn the fighting skills and adopt the style of dress appropriate to the lands in which they fight. For example, a man-eater in the Empire might wear breeches and an ostentatious feather with a brace of huge pistols across his chest. A man-eater campaigning in the jungles of the Southlands might go into battle as the savage orcs do, that is, wearing an undersized loincloth, a gut plate, and nothing else but smeary war paint, although more civilized folk might not want to visualize that. Man-eaters tend to operate in small groups, some of which have fought together for years. Despite their outlandish appearance, these tight-knit bands excel at breaking heads. It is rare for any two man-eaters to fight or be equipped in exactly the same manner, and opponents find themselves fighting against a dizzying array of different weapons and combat techniques. The only real factors uniting the individualistic man-eaters are their monumentally inflated sense of self-worth and their capacity to smash aside lesser creatures without breaking a sweat. When they return to the ogre kingdoms, man-eaters take an opportunity to bore their tribe mates with long, fanciful war stories, some of which are even true. Although such tales are tiresome, an ogre tyrant is always happy if he can call on the voices of one or two units of man-eaters to aid his tribe. They can be used to lead important attacks, or hold a vital part of the battle line. Man-eaters are famously stubborn opponents, and usually prefer to fight to their last breath rather than flee. After all, they have learned the hard way that if they run off in the course of a battle, they won't get paid.
Yes, I summoned them because I needed reinforcements. Yes, I know they are eating your prize cattle, and yes, I know ogres have large appetites. I put a notice on the local watchhouse offering a small payment to anyone with the wherewithal to make them go. That should prove more than sufficient.
Many ogres have left the tribal society of the ogre kingdoms in search of food in the old world. The large cities of the Empire is where the ogres are almost an everyday sight. Here they serve in state armies and work as hired muscle. The Gaffers Guild, an organization of halfling building contractors, has an effective monopoly on ogres in the construction industry, much to the consternation of rival guilds. For reasons unknown, ogres and halflings seem to instinctively get along. Many important halflings employ ogre bodyguards. Conversely, ogre mercenary bands often travel with halfling cooks. This mutual bond may be down to a universal love of food, and also the fact that the halflings are the best cooks in the land, and so ogres have reason to keep them alive rather than eat them, because eating a halfling is barely going to be a snack for an ogre. Ogres speak a crude and often guttural language, which is known as Grumbath, or Ogrish to outsiders. Ogres, being completely illiterate, rely on crude cave painting Halflings and a tradition of storytelling which is recognizable to outsiders as just boasting, to convey the folk tales and legends of their civilization, if one can call it that. One of their earliest myths concerns Old Stone Guts, an ogre that caught and ate the sun one evening, but due to the heartburn it was causing him, threw it back up the very next morning. Ogres place great stock in feats of strength, and the mythology of the ogre kingdoms is continually fueled by the Herculean and often extremely exaggerated tasks undertaken by its inhabitants. Their strange language is never understood by other races, and it's hard even for ogres. This Grumbath is a snorting, growling language, although many ogres can get by in Norse and a smattering of other Old World languages. Few non-ogres know the language, although some mercenary commanders find its knowledge useful. Most ogrish idioms concern food and eating, and those ogres who speak human tongues have a habit of translating these literally, which creates interesting problems with communication. Slim is a term applied to most non-ogres in conversation, and occasionally an ogre will address another as such by way of an insult. Most of their terms for other races translate to food, victuals, or similar. One story sums up the typical ogrish attitudes to eating and fighting. An ogre mercenary captain is believed to have said to his human employer,
"Oi, Slim, shift your starters and we'll make breakfast."
which is roughly translatable as, "Insignificantly small person, if you would like to move your front rank out of the way, we shall engage the enemy." Ogres, being completely illiterate, rely on crude cave paintings. It should be noted that Maneaters, partially because of this problem, assimilate much of the culture of those lands they visit, and this includes languages, so typically when dealing in mercenary contracts, they will learn Reichspiel, and Golgfag Maneater is known to speak Reichspiel fluently.
Who could forget the ogres? Not anyone with a sense of smell, that's for sure. Worse manners than trolls, and that's saying something. But there are a few troops you'd rather have on your side in the heat of the battle.
Golgfag Maneater is an infamous ogre mercenary captain, whose fame has made all other ogre mercenaries adopt the name Maneaters. Possibly one of the most successful ogre mercenaries of all time, Golgfag Maneater forged a reputation for ogres as fearsome killers for hire long before they became a relatively common sight in the mercenary armies of the Old World. Although he could be mistaken for a mere bruiser, Golgfag has been in active service for over 60 years and has considerable tactical acumen to go with his lattice-like network of scar tissue. Golgflag's reputation and wealth have grown so considerable that in recent years he has begun to hire his own mercenary armies, including more and more ogres as the Great Migration gathers speed. The term Maneater was first coined when, after a drunken argument, Golgfag ate his paymaster whole and left carrying his coffers. He insists this day that his name is misleading, for, just like the faithful band of violent thugs that travel with him, Golgfag really isn't that fussy about what or who he eats. Golgfag is the biggest, ugliest, and quite definitely the loudest ogre to shamble out of the eastern wastes in living memory. Born from the Saberskins tribe, Golgfag soon found himself leading a bunch of almost equally brutal ogre warriors. He quickly developed a taste for man flesh and joined forces with an orc war boss named Nashrak Badtooth. Nashrak was busy fighting against the dwarfs of Karak Kadrin, high up in the World's Edge Mountains. Golgfag wasn't sure he liked the taste of dwarf, but was more than happy to find out. Gashrak thought the ogres would prove just the kind of troops he needed to sort out the dwarfs. However, he soon grew tired of the ogres' appetite for goblins, booze, and raucous singing. After one particularly loud drinking session, Golgfag and Nashrak got into a huge fight. Soon all the ogres and orcs were scrapping. Golgfag tore off the orc's arm and used it to bash his way out of the encampment before leading his lads to safety. Nashrak was completely enraged. Golgfag promptly offered his services to the dwarf king, Ungrim Ironfist. He showed Nashrak's arm to Ungrim as proof of his sincerity. In the face of such convincing offer, Ironfist was hardly able to refuse. Golgfag led his ogres and a party of dwarfs along a secret track into the orcs' encampment in Broken Leg Gully, so called because of its impossibly steep and treacherous sides. The orcs were trapped and horribly slaughtered. Nashrak was captured and subsequently bound in chains and delivered to Ungrim Ironfist. Although handsomely paid, Golgfag looted the king's treasury during the ensuing celebrations and then headed west to the Empire. There he took employment in the ranks of the Imperial Army, and it was here that he discovered halflings were by far his favourite food. Shortly afterwards, he turned up in the lands of Tilea, in the employ of one Lorenzo Lupo. Lorenzo found the ogres to be excellent troops, but a considerable nuisance. The citizens of Lucini were forever complaining of being beaten, robbed, or bullied by the rowdy ogres. One night, Golgfag decided to take rather more than his fair share of wine, directly from Lorenzo's warehouses. When the ogres fell into a drunken stupor, Lorenzo sent a company of pikemen to arrest them and throw them out into his dungeons. Fortunately for Lorenzo, an opportunity to be rid of the ogres altogether arrived in the form of a messenger from one of the border princes. The messenger was hiring mercenaries on behalf of his master. Lorenzo cheerfully fitted him up with the ogres, took his fee, and released Golgfag and his crew from captivity. Golgfag was understandably annoyed, but faced with a new offer of employment, a complimentary baggage train of food, and a firing line of Tilean crossbowmen, the ogre decided to let matters lie, for the moment at least. Golgfag's stay in the border princes proved a successful and profitable one. The ogres grew fat and wealthy. They were kept busy by one side or the other, and were given every chance to indulge their appetite for fresh meat. Golgfag's only regret was the scarcity of halflings thereabouts. Around this time he is known to have made a stint on the high seas. When he heard that the trouble was brewing between the orcs and dwarfs, he headed northwards once more. He fell in with a bunch of orcs and goblins, and was soon feasting upon dwarf once again. It was after a foray against the dwarfs that Golgfag was ambushed by none other than Ungrim Ironfist, his former employer. The canny Slayer King led an orc army into a trap, using the supply convoy as bait. The convoy consisted entirely of wagons full of cheap ale, which the greenskins duly captured and drained. Golgfag and the ogres courageously drank themselves into oblivion along with the rest. When they awoke, the ogres found themselves in dungeons deep below Carrick Kedrin, along with the remnants of the orc army. The dwarfs no doubt expected Golgfag to die in his cramped and crowded dungeon, and possibly thought this would be easier and safer than trying to kill the ogre in some other fashion. When the dwarfs finally opened the dungeon some months later, they were startled to find Golgfag still alive. He had eaten every other inmate of the dungeon, including the rest of the ogres apart from Scaff. Out of respect for his oldest drinking buddy, Golgfag had only, so far, eaten one of Scaff's legs. A great pile of orc, goblin and ogre bones lay in one corner. When he heard this, Ungrim Ironfist was so impressed that he ordered Golgfag to be taken a long way away and released, like a sentimental mother with a rat in a trap. Golgfag soon gathered together some of his old lads, and other keen young ogres flocked to join him. Scaff decided to stick with Golgfag despite everything, and gratefully accepted the position of standard-bearer, as this gave him something to lean on. Before the summer was out, Golgfag headed south over the Grey Mountains in company with an orc raiding party. It was there that he fought his first battles against Bretonnians, where he first sampled tinned food, which became ogre slang for knights. From that day to this, Golgfag has never looked back. His reputation has, if anything, grown and grown.
And so has his girth.
But he still has a few scores to settle. Not least with the dwarfs of Karak Kudrin, but with the treacherous Lorenzo Lupo. However, ogres are straightforward folk, and such things take a second place to a good fight. And a full belly, of course. More tales are told about Golgfag than any other ogre alive, and Golgfag himself spins a great many of them, truly or untruly. Though he exaggerates with wild abandon, Golgfag is still the most successful of all ogre mercenary captains. He has won countless battles, looted upon the island of Ulthuan, set eyes upon the ruinous Skavenblight, and survived. Guzzled more kegs of Bugman's XXXXXX than most dwarfs have ever seen, and has been personally decorated by Emperor Karl Franz. Golgfag has travelled the world, and his cronies, known unimaginatively as Golgfag's Maneaters, have gained wide notoriety as being battle-hardened killers. Over the course of his adventures, Golgfag has won and lost more fortunes than there are nobblers in the hills. His wanderlust prevents him from becoming a great leader, but earns him plenty of loot and renown. As I said, his title of Maneater was coined when he ate his human paymaster, and such is his fame that the Maneater is now a general term for any ogre who travels the lands as a sellsword. At last sighting, Golgfag has returned to the ogre kingdoms to recruit more ogres to his famed regiment. Where he'll head next is anyone's guess.
Going to cry? Piss your pants, maybe. Maybe shit and come.
It's my life.